Hi, folks. Welcome back to the PagerDuty Twitch channel. I'm Mandy Wells, DevOps Advocate here at PagerDuty. With me today, I've got Forrest and Jake, which means it's time for release notes, process automation, and Rundeck open source. What do you guys
I
have
thought it
for
was
us?
time to talk hats and zip ups.
Well, and you're lacking on the zip up side of the house today. Like we've got the hats covered.
I don't blame him. There's a heat wave in California, in case you haven't read the news for 2 weeks.
Too hot for zip up.
So I don't blame him. Yes, we have release notes. I can fire them up on the screen here, and let's talk about version 4.6.
Sweet. For folks who want to follow along at home, I will put that in the chat.
Right. So version 4.6 came out mid last week sometime, Wednesday, I think, Tuesday, a week ago today. Has some great new AWS focused plugins, again, around our automated diagnostics solution that Jake's been leading. And that's, why we definitely have him here. I think, Jake, do you have the ability to show off a couple of these in a little bit?
Yeah, we can definitely dig into the actual product and demonstrate what these enhancements and new plugin do.
Awesome.
Yeah, so Athena was new to me. It's help me understand it. It's like a SQL language for S3.
Yeah, so what it does is it allows you to make SQL-esque queries to data that you have in S3, and so it's not a Athena is not a like service unto itself. It's not a primitive. Think of it kind of like auto scaling groups is a service on top of EC2s, right? So it's like a service on top of services. So Athena is this service built on top of S3 and Amazon Glue, if need be. It allows you to make SQL queries to CSVs and other data formats in S3.
Okay, so even the data format doesn't really matter. That's interesting. So how did this sort of come about? Did we have customers that were curious about this?
Yeah, so along the lines of automated diagnostics, one of the common sources of data for diagnostics is changes to an environment. And the common source of data for changes in an AWS environment is CloudTrail. But you can't make queries to CloudTrail the way you can to logs that are in CloudWatch. And so what Amazon recommends is you push your CloudTrail logs to S3, and then you use Athena to query those CloudTrail logs. And that's what allows you to say, hey, when there's an incident, let's query our CloudTrail logs for specific types of changes on the specific service where the incident is occurring, to see if and what changes have occurred in the last 24 hours, for example, to see if that's what is the root cause of the incident.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so kind of following AWS's recommendations on how to go get all that good diagnostics data.
Yeah, exactly.
And then also some enhancements to the ECS Node Source here.
Yeah, so what we did there was focused on those with, at scale, you're going to have numerous clusters, numerous regions, numerous accounts. I spoke to one customer who had, I believe, literally hundreds of ECS clusters. And so what we did is, make it easier to bring in numerous clusters at one time as in a given node source in a project. But then what we also added was the ability to filter which containers you want pulled into Runbook automation. So you can imagine where you have a whole bunch of sandbox containers in a given, say, namespace in your cluster, and you're just not going to find a reason to implement this sort of automation on those containers. So when you want to pull them into Runbook automation, you say, like, okay, pull in all of the ECS containers except those that have that are in the sandbox namespace or are associated with these tags or associated with these services. So I'll show it in the demo, but we added a lot of filtering capability to say either, include all of these or exclude all of these for the given ECS node source.
Awesome. Well, definitely look forward to that demo. But I want to cover off a few of the other items that didn't make the above the fold notes here. But there is one in particular, this audit tracking for jobs and ACLs. It's another sort of compelling piece that's also included as part of our open source product. So this adds audit tracking for items such as like running jobs, etc. If I'll fire off the documentation here, we can look and see that there's now a new audit log that will track things of when I view a job, when I run a job, when I create or delete a job, etc., as well as some other events. So we added this with version 4.6 in all those versions. It will be turned on by default, except for the Docker one. We're going to update some docs. I just tried to get it going this morning on my Docker, and there is a setting for that. But I have a quick demo to show how that works. So if I go to run this job, I have this terminal screen on the right. And when I view the job, run the job, and start to do things, we'll see these events pop up here. All right, and it can show you that I viewed that job, and then I ran that check API response job. So these can be picked up and parsed for audit trail of what users are doing throughout the system.
And does that report back to inside the actual Rundeck platform as well, right?
We don't have a way to see that in the platform.
Okay.
Today. So it's just part of our standard, it's all within our standard logging section. Sweet. So if we look at the list of logs here, we've got all our other logs. It's contained within that, and you could pick this up and parse it with things like Sumo Logic, for example, or your other logging tool to keep track of those events.
Cool.
And then there's a whole variety of security fixes, CVE fixes, and a little preview I have for you is there is going to be a 4.6.1 version. We had there was another CVE that popped up right as we were about to release, and that will be coming out with a 4.6.1 in the next day or two. It's related to Snake YAML and a very recent CVE number here with the year and the high number there.
So should folks hold off updating to 4.6.0 and just go straight to 4.6.1, or is it okay?
You can. I think that's up to how strict your your CV and your security thing. You could, if you have if you have some freedom, you could download this. Hopefully folks are running through development environments and testing ahead of time. You could test the 4.6.0 features and see if they work for you, or see if some of the other things might solve an issue. If you're waiting for that release, say go ahead with that. This particular CVE is marked as high, so a lot of our customers will want to get that addressed. So yeah. We're pushing it up, right, instead of waiting for 4.7.0. We're pushing what we refer to internally as that point release. So we're just going to iterate this number to 4.6.1 and update that CVE.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, and then a variety of other bug fixes. We did some fix-ups on the recently released loop script plugins. I don't know if we've talked about one of those,
I think so.
But you can check these out. This is a new version of the script plugin. So we've had the script plugin, probably since the dawn of Rundeck, the ability to invoke your own script in whatever language the executing server supports. One of our developers had a use case where he needed to kind of loop that script through an input array. So he just kind of wrote the plugin really quickly. So you can provide this input array either manually or as a variable. So maybe you pick up an array from a previous step, and then you want to iterate over that array with a particular script.
Oh, that sounds handy.
Yeah, and there's a kind of straightforward example here in the documentation about the loop script plugins, and it's come out to be very helpful. I think the use case that Luis had was we also offer process automation through the AWS marketplace. And in order to release that and keep that up to date, he needed this particular use case for some reason. So
sounds good. All right, then. Can you talk a little bit about the Ansible plugin upgrade? We've talked about the Ansible plugin on the stream before. This one that's come out with the winrm stuff is kind of interesting, but if I'm reading that right, also requires you to make sure you've got a current version of Ansible. Is that right?
I need to look a little bit deeper into this particular fix. So based on the title, if you're trying to use a non-administrative user with winrm, right, and we use winrm for our Windows boxes, the Ansible plugin, it seems like the Ansible plugin has some trouble there. I would have to dig into probably the specific use case. This Lionel here works on our, what we call the sustainability team. He will work on bugs reported by customers or things reported through the community that pop up. So I'd have to look specifically into this one, but the Ansible plugins were grabbed and updated with this last version.
Okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, sweet.
Great. And now for the real part of the show, let's get Jake to show off some of these AWS plugins.
Yeah, Jake, what do you got?
All right, let's do it. All right, so I'll show a little bit of both of these, time permitting. The first is the Athena query plugin. And this is just a single job step, and I'll show what the configured job step looks like. So it's just a workflow step, and as you can see here, right, it's a SQL query, and what we're doing here is just looking at the information schema table, and we are specifying our database. And again, the database in this case is basically an abstraction on top of the bucket. And so you specify the database that represents the schema in the S3 bucket. The rest of this is pretty straightforward. It's our access credentials and connection details. So we'll go ahead and
is that database something you have to configure ahead of time to sort of prepare for Athena?
Correct.
Okay. So if I have an S3 bucket today, right, with a bunch of files in it, I need to sort of configure that database connection prior to getting this going. Okay.
Yeah. And so you're not creating a database like an RDS. You're configuring against more of like the schema association.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and just run a job now. This one's pretty unexciting. Oh, did I probably messed up credentials. I may have done this in another portal first. Let me see. Did I? It's always the excitement of doing things live, right?
It's all good.
So I think I executed this successfully just a few minutes ago, so I'm not exactly sure what I changed there, but this is what the output is going to look like. It's just it's a table from a SQL query. And so you can actually see that what we've done to kind of save load on the runbook automation interface, and given that most people don't want to see hundreds of lines of a table here, is that we'll return the first 50 rows of the query, but then you can actually see the full output of the query in AWS. And so we give you that link right here. So that's pretty straightforward. And so that's the Athena query plugin. For the ECS Node Source, what I'll show is just the the configuration of that. So you can see that in this case, we're actually running process automation. We're running it on ECS, and so we can use the fact that we're running in Amazon as our authentication mechanism. And so that's what this credential provider is here. But then the more exciting piece is the ability to, again, filter which containers you want to pull in. And you can filter by, again, service name, task definition name, tags, etc. And then here, this is new, which is being able to specify not just one cluster per node source, but again, either use a comma separated list or use the term all clusters to discover every cluster within the specified region for the specified account. And so whereas before you would have to add a new node source per cluster, now you can effectively do it per region and not have to go through all of the steps per cluster. And then what that looks like is pulling in the multiple ECS containers, as you can see here. And then combined with the ECS node executor that we released in 4.5, if I recall correctly, we can now just run commands directly to those containers. And so you can actually see the commands that I ran previously here. And I can see that for each of these I ran, just to give me the process ID of the Java process we're running on each of these containers. And I think that wraps up the demo.
Cool.
Yeah, 4.5 was the ECS node executor plugin. I think that if anyone watching missed the 4.5 release notes, they're out on YouTube somewhere.
Yep. Yeah, I'll put a link into this one as well, so folks can refer back to the 4.5.
So it sounds like Jake's master plan is all coming together.
I think so, yes. Exhaustive list of diagnostics for AWS.
And looking ahead for 4.7, we have an interesting, a couple of interesting plugins coming out. One that will help shape and track the ROI of Rundeck.
Ooh.
And another one related to automated diagnostics that's a little bit, I don't know, Jake, how would you vaguely describe the other one you have coming?
The other one we'll release with 4.7 is to execute saved queries for CloudWatch Logs. So we previously released a CloudWatch Logs plugin that allows customers to submit or type up their queries to CloudWatch Logs in the Rundeck automation product. This plugin will allow them to save those queries not in Rundeck or in process automation, but save those queries in their AWS account and just have us point to the name of that saved query, execute that saved query, pull the results back. And we've heard from multiple customers that's their preferred practice, which is to save the saved queries in AWS and have us just invoke those, yet still surface the results in PagerDuty.
That's super sweet.
That makes a lot of sense. You would store it there, and then if the query changes, you're changing it just in that one spot where you test it and see it, and your automation doesn't. You don't have to go change all 13, 15 jobs that might be calling that same query string.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Sweet. That sounds awesome. Folks won't have to know where to find it on the AWS side and just come into Rundeck.
Yeah, we also have an RSS newsfeed plugin coming, so you can get streams of information from that.
Yeah, that one will be really nice for customers that want to go and retrieve like cloud provider health events or SaaS provider health events, right? So like PagerDuty and Slack and GitHub, they all have a status page, and one of the ways that you can get updates from the status page is by following this RSS feed for them. And so what this plugin will do is, again, kind of per the diagnostics workflow, if an incident gets triggered, you want to know, is it us or is it these third-party providers that we rely on? So this plugin will help answer that question in real time.
Ooh, I'm ready to see that one. That sounds fantastic too. So excellent.
I switched over to the public comments. Looks like you're getting a pass this week on the zip up because it's over 90 degrees.
Yes.
Love that. Thanks, Joey.
It's been approved.
Appreciate Appreciate the leniency by the crowd.
Anyone else in the comments have questions or something from a recent release that we can answer?
Anything folks would like to know? We've got everybody online here. In the meantime, if you'd like to sign up to get the release notes yourself, I'll put that in the chat here, and you can sign up on the form there to receive those when they are published. So you won't miss anything there. So cool.
Oh, well, no questions.
No questions this week
coming in, but think about them for next time. Do we have a date yet for the next one, or?
You guys tell me when's the release coming out.
Oh, I guess we'll have to look up the calendar and chat with the engineering team.
That's right. Yeah, we don't want to do any date-driven development there if we don't have to. Awesome. Well, for folks out there, yeah, like I said, sign up for the release notes. You get those via email. You can follow our channel here, so when we come on to the stream, you'll be alerted that we're back. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe over there and like our videos and give us a shout. So yeah, awesome. So we'll be back eventually, right? Yeah, with another update, couple weeks.
Our usual cadence. You were still our usual cadence, 3-4 weeks.
3-4 weeks.
And like I said, keep an eye out for that 461 in the next day or two, just to keep them most secure.
Awesome. All right. Sounds like a good plan to me.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you never miss a stream. Follow us at PD Community and PagerDuty on twitch.tv. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you'd like to be on our stream, email us at community-team@pagerduty.com so we can feature the cool things you're doing. And don't forget, check out all of our global events on our calendar at pagerduty.com/events.